Hello, if you're watching this right now, you may be asking yourself, why am I wearing a tie? Well, if you're not wearing a tie, that's a pretty weird thing to ask yourself, but maybe you're referring to me and asking, why am I, Will Franken, wearing a tie right now? Well, the answer is because I want you to hire me. Well, you might be saying, well, hold on just a second. Didn't I give Will Franken some money back in early August? You did, and I made Silvatico 5 with it. And guess what? I'd like to make now a documentary. It'll be my second documentary. I haven't done a documentary since 2017's William Blake documentary. And if I was doing that today, I would change a few things. I would accentuate some things and downplay some others because things have changed, obviously, most notably my attitude towards this country. And I think in 2017, I think I was starting to fall out of love with it after what happened to me in 2016 with the blacklisting. And realized, oh my God, this is what happens when you do satire nowadays. But I was kind of limping along, and I did the Blake documentary, and there was some residual Anglophobia, not Anglophobia, Anglophilia. Sorry, now I have Anglophobia now, but I have Americophobia as well, and I have Europhobia and Worldophobia right now. Well, a lot of phobias going around, but I like spiders, and snakes are fun too, and I love flying and jumping off of big, tall buildings. But I'm really scared of governments. Yes, I'd like you to hire me. I want to do a documentary. It's about local corruption at the council level. Now, I would like this to appeal to as many people as possible. So people in the rest of the world who don't suffer the evil of what is known here in Britain as council tax, which since 2020 has come to mean all sorts of stuff. We're going to rebuild things. And I know you don't drive a car, but we need you to pay for a lot of electric carports along this area. We're going to shut down the bus station, turn that into a green space, and all of this part of the beach may be closed off to the general public unless Sir Roger De Haan, who owns the harbour, gets his cut of the deal. So a lot of just, naked corruption. And I thought, let's do a documentary on that. So there'll be the PayPal. I can't believe I'm still going. Actually, I have such stage fright when when I'm not presenting my art. See, my art I feel is incontrovertible. Like I put out an album and it's like love it or hate it. That's who I am, in my essence. And I was talking to one of the recent donors for the Silvatico 5 project on Saturday, and I was shooting the shit with him and. I said, when I make videos in my own voice, where I'm kind of riffing and have some, skeletal ideas, I get such stage fright these days. And he says, he kept saying, well, yeah, but you're good at it. And I said, yeah, but I always, subconsciously, I feel like the world doesn't need another person talking to the camera in his room, But I realized today, right before I pressed record, I realized what it is this is what you do when you're a kid. And you want to be an entertainer. You look into a mirror and you imagine an audience that you can't hear, but you fantasize and you're going to change the world. And now when you're an adult and you do it, you imagine your deceased father shouting at you from beyond the ether, "Hey man, you going to mow the fucking yard or what?" "Yes, in just a second. I'm working on my art." "Art? What are you, some kind of faggot?" "No, I'm insane." So that's probably some Freudian reasons why I get a little jittery before pressing record, but I also want to make sure my message is clear. So there will be the PayPal link in this video, and as well as a Patreon option as well. And I've always felt it's the people who who are not the good marketers I've always looked up to that. If the Beatles had been left on their own without Brian Epstein, where the hell would they have been? They might have imploded, But am I making sense now? See, I get very nervous about marketing. This was explained to me once psychologically by a friend of mine in San Francisco, and I thought that makes sense, but I'll save that for later. But you got to admit, some things I will not do in this new age. I will never monetize anything. Because I think that I would be a terrible whore if I were to do a 10-minute sequence on the evils of AI and then randomly assign an advert to just pop up and say, "Hello, AI can help you read and write and think and sew and cook and milk a cow." So I'm not going to do it. Plus, I hate the interruption of the flow. It's like when the Monty Python's Flying Circus episodes found their way to the States, and there'd be this interruption in the middle. So that, and I will never purchase comments. I will never say purchase views. I had no idea until after post-COVID story that this sort of stuff was being done. I had no idea. But anyway, you guys, many of you helped pay to get Silvatico 5 made. And I'm not sure if I've talked to the public since then. I've talked to many of you individually and sent you a thank you. And you also received the 33-minute outtake, the album that could have been. That I just went in a totally different direction and made the final product of Silvatico 5. So you helped make that. And what did I do with the money? How did you help me make it? You bought me 2 months of basic existence, along with the Patreon contributions from people who've been on the Patreon page for years. You helped me cover my rent for 2 months, get the same food I always get from Sainsbury's, those corned beef cakes and pasta, real basic living, and I just had time to breathe and make the album. That's all I need. I don't need, I just need the basics, and as it is with money, when you spend it, you don't have it anymore, So that's where I'm at. And it's also been accelerated by the fact that the council has threatened me with jail, and I believe this guy has done this illegally. He is a welfare officer, which is kind of a strange title to have. We look after the welfare of individuals by threatening them with jail if they don't have the money to pay the tax they owe us for the electric carports and the green spaces and the bee pathways and the police drones. I wanted to mention that I did carve out by the way, you've noticed I call these things albums. I don't like these modern terms. It's a podcast. Podcast is whatever you make it. It's a thing in your hair. It's a shirt you wear. It's a favorite buffalo. It's a podcast. This is an album, and I want to evoke an album sleeve, and you put it on the headphones, and you groove to it. So I carved out 2 singles, and the singles one was for the Charlie Kirk cold opening, and one was the Graham Linehan bit. And so I have an EP, if you will, of those 2 singles, and that's extended play for you youngsters. And it's funny. The Graham Linehan thing, the Charlie Kirk thing was written after I was completely done with the album, and then I made some joke. Then Charlie Kirk got shot, and I made some joke to my girlfriend. I said, "Yeah, you know what they're gonna do now? They're gonna usher in that brand new anti-murder bill." And then I go, "Oh my God! Now I got to write a fucking bit about. Of course, I got to write a bit about Charlie Kirk, and do it right. Get to both sides of the whole, the Charlie Kirk Jesus thing. Like, who the fuck was this guy? Some clean-cut gym body. I'm engage with the debate. It's not quite televangelism. It's different. It's more snarky and debatey and internet-y. But it's essentially the same. Good morning. Jesus loves you. He loves everything. He loves everything. He hates the sinner, but he loves the sin. I'm sorry, I got that wrong. He loves the sinner, but hates the sin. So it's that, just kind of more technical, and then the wife too. I mean, what did she say? She fucked it up. She said, "Father, they not forgive them for what they will not do." Some jumbled malapropism, and then but then also to have the tired old cliches coming in from the other side. Hey, don't you believe in a woman's right to choose? Like, what are you gonna do? You think he's gonna have an epiphany? Oh my God! My head's gonna explode before that bullet hits us. Wow, I never thought about that. Yes, a right to choose. I'm gonna change my ways. It's a stupid dance. It's this dumb dance, and I carved that out. And then the Graham Linehan thing, believe it or not, was literally written and recorded the day before he got taken down by the Heathrow police there for his tweets there. And I don't even know. I don't know. And that's another thing there where you got to look at both sides of the things. He's fucking mad because he seems to think that the only thing in the world to worry about now is trannies. And the other side, the other side is mad, storming him for tweets and all that. It's all mad, it's mad. And what do I do? I'm defending women and girls. Well, I'll tell you how I'm defending women and girls. When I play a video game, I choose a male character. And I know there's some people out there that don't care about women and girls, that are pretending to be Wanda the Warrior when they play Skeletal Dragon 4 but I choose to be Mick the man with the stick. And that's how I'm doing my little part to save every single woman from the world that men have created for them with artificial sex robots now and going to the moon and sticking a chip in a pig's brain. But none of that's important. What's important is that man there is wearing a wig and a dress. Anyway, let's pull out of that accent and let's get focused. I had to make some. Yes, they threatened me with jail because this bastard is saying. So he has to see my bank statements. I give him my bank statements, and there's something called a 13A, which they don't really advertise, and understandably. But the 13A is a discretionary relief where you basically go to the council and you say, "I have no money, so lay off. There's nothing to give for me. I am that stone from which no blood doth be procured," right? And they're supposed to, especially a welfare officer, is supposed to go, this sounds like a case of sad poverty. Don't worry about that council tax. We would never do anything torturous like that. Anyway, I've shown this bastard these fucking bank statements. So the first thing he does is, I see you have an American account as well. Okay, here we go. So the American account I have open because it's connected to my PayPal, and my Patreon and the PayPal stuff goes into the American account, and then that gets moved over to the British account so I can use it here. And I have nothing in either. So I sent him basically two bank statements to show poor. I'm doubly poor. I have, not only do I have one bank account with nothing in it, I have two. And he's been going after me, this prick, and he says this about committal. And I said, what are you talking about, committal? He says, committal to jail. And I said, what, for being poor? And he said, no. And I said, well, it seems like that's what it is, because if I don't have the money to pay the tax and you're going to put me in jail, my crime would therefore be being poor. Wouldn't it? I think it would be. And he got a little bit flustered, and we're just trying to take him to task on that, because it's, if I have to go to jail, I'll go to jail. If that's what the game is now, if you don't have money, you go to jail. I'm not surprised if it is. I was thinking about this, because Diane Keaton, the lovely Diane Keaton, died recently, and I have been, revisiting the Woody Allen films, and I feel bad, doing that, because I was, obviously a big fan of Woody Allen's, from when I was very young, for precocious, young creative, growing up where I did. It was nice to feel like somebody else was name dropping Fellini and Bergman, and I loved his, most of his early films. Some of them, the Take the Money and Run, I could do without, and Bananas, but. The Diane Keaton era, I just love. Manhattan is my favorite. But when Woody Allen in the late '90s married his adopted daughter, I tuned out. I just dropped him, and that's my personal opinion on the issue. But I also think because he did that with Soon Yi. See, I don't think. I think with that, you got a wide range. You're a famous person. You could choose from anywhere, and why, it's what the slang in term is there's a great film called Short Eyes about child molesters in prison, from 1977, wonderful film, Short Eyes. But Short Eyes means that you have this kind of narrow vision, and it's like, why would you look to your own adopted daughter when you have this, so that was pretty suspicious to me, and I stopped paying attention to Woody Allen's output from then on. And so when that accusation came up from his stepdaughter, Dylan Farrow, I don't think it lends too much credence to his side of the story. But anyway, because Diane Keaton died, I did dust off Annie Hall and revisit it, and yes, it did make me laugh, and she even made me cry. I love Diane Keaton. She brought a totally new. It was style, and she had a unique way of delivering things. Like the other night, I was watching Shoot the Moon, Alan Parker's about a dysfunctional family with Albert Finney. Wonderful. And she's on the phone at one point. She says, yeah, no, and she is real rhythmic. She has a real rhythmic delivery. Anyway, I was revisiting Annie Hall, and one of my favorite lines when I was a kid, and I mean like a 12-year-old, and a movie came on television, was the line where he's talking about the JFK assassination. And he says, no, these are politicians. You know the ethics these guys have. They're like a notch below child molester. And I love that line as a kid because it says something really nasty about the state of the world. That the world is run by people who have the ethics of or below that of child molesters. But now, given, the suspicions around Woody Allen, And given the fact that Prince Andrew, or ex-Prince Andrew, engaged in a bit of child molestation himself, and there was the whole Epstein and Trump and Clinton and whoever else flew on that fucking plane. Who was that other guy? There's the guy who developed Chat GPT, and I forget his name because I'm not, I don't collect fan books of these pricks. But anyway, whoever that asshole is, he's being sued by his own sister for sexual abuse, and that's one of the, godfathers of this AI revolution, right? The ethics of child molesters. And I love that line, and I'm thinking about putting it in this documentary and talking about, okay, what does it mean for certain classes? So Woody Allen, at the time he wrote that line, was a fairly already successful director. He had a world in the outside. He had a career. He had, heads weren't going to fall. It was also late 70s. It was, we've just moved out of Nixon. We're in this crazy Ford Carter era. We're cynical. I wasn't around then. I was 4 years old at the time the film was released, but I was 1 year old when Nixon resigned. So we got all of this cynicism that we either don't have. I think we still have the cynicism against politicians. It's just we have the apathy and the cowardice to do anything about it because they do seem so monolithic, much more monolithic than even Nixon was. And so Woody Allen sang this in a different time, in a different circumstance, as a different individual. But what does it mean for people who are at the lowest rung of society to live in a world that's being run by people with the ethics of, or worse than, child molesters? It's a matter of life and death, isn't it? If you got a career, if you own property, if you pay your taxes diligently because you never have any problems, and it goes effortlessly in and out of your bank, and you're a contributor to what they call the economy and society, you might be okay. You might be able to get by, just like many Nazis did in Germany in the 30s. They managed to get by without being a full-fledged Nazi. I cross. It's just you're able to navigate in the world. But for people living on the poverty line, that's just a matter of them just cutting you away, and then you just disappear and you're gone. And that's some of what I want to deal with in this documentary, but dealing with it through the Folkestone High Town Council. Now, I think other people in Britain will get it because councils are something all over Britain. And I had to call my American friends and I said, remind me, did we have something in America where once a month they came and they said, money, because we run the council? And they said, no, they took it out of a check. Which which strangely enough, I don't want to be one of those people who says ironically all the time. Ironically, it was 5 o'clock earlier. Did I mention that the reason I get so nervous? I said I took some notes because I want to hit this out of the park. I'm a bad marketer. Somebody was asking me about, I've been asked by people. I got an email the other day, and they said, why don't you book your own shows? I've tried to. I've tried to get especially post-COVID. I can't get a response from any venue in this town. And they have something here called a creative quarter, right? And it's financed by this guy, Sir Roger DeHaan. And creative, I did not know this, but creative also means tech developers. And most of the real estate down there is for tech developers. So I don't have money, disposable income to travel around the country. I would love to. I'm so homesick for a fucking audience, man. It's driving me crazy, right? I'd give anything to be able to see you guys in person. There's this diaspora out there of people who dig my stuff, and I would just, so I was shut out in 2016 because of my satire. And I feel like I'm repeating these stories all the time, so I don't want to delve into this too much. But in 2016, I was finally cut off, for making fun of the Edinburgh Fringe and attacking the famous people and the newcomers and the whole picture of it. And then that was it. I was pretty much frozen out to just a fraction of what I had before. And then along came Comedy Unleashed, and they liked me for a while. And then eventually I made fun of them. and they did something really weird. They wiped all my video. You know, I was their top comedian, and the Greta Thunberg thing, everything got wiped out. Never heard of the guy. Yeah, he tried to cancel. They actually said this in one of their responses, because I wrote something for this chortle publication out here, and one of their responses was that I tried to cancel them by putting down their comedy night on their stage. I mean, it's so anyway. You see the circularity of the free speech argument is pretty pointless, because I can use my free speech to, and they were really pushing me, like, they knew I was going off the message, like, do more Greta. The guy was saying that, literally, do more Greta Thunberg, that's okay, but this other stuff, and I had a great last night there, and I told him, and got the 180, walked out the door, and that was it, and then the whole COVID story happened. And I think because I opened my mouth about that in the beginning, like, this is fucking bullshit, that might have been the last. And then it was the only people left in this country were Jay Hanley in Birmingham, I still get gigs from sometimes, and Paul James out in the Welsh Valleys. And that was it, man. So I think what happens is we're going to these venues and say, what's your name? Will Franken. And I think what happens now is people probably go home and they look somebody up. And they type away and they go, no, And it's weird. One of the music venues down here has a sign out front that says sponsored by, and it's got various the Folkestone High Council, what else? Something electronics, and then His Majesty's government. And it's really weird. And then you look on the wall of this thing; it's got a little thing that says Folkestone and Hythe was represented at some UN conference, and it was named a what do they call it? The world's first music town. I'm not making this up. Look it up. Folkestone, world's first music town, not Vienna. Not Memphis, Folkestone, home of Noel Redding, right? Which was I don't think he was the most famous member of the Jimi Hendrix Experience. I could be wrong. I think it might have been the other guy, the black African American guy with the afro. I don't think it was Noel Redding, but Noel Redding is from here. But after 2020, you walk around, there's various places where they've got these neon lights. Folkestone, the world's first music town. And I think it has, I don't want to get too conspiratorial because I don't really read a lot of conspiracy. I scan the headlines and I say, this is bullshit, that's bullshit, and fuck them. That's how I consume the news usually. So I don't really spend too much time into the nitty gritty. I just know what's I feel is right and I feel what's wrong, And I can't believe I'm this far into it. I was going to chuck it after. I had some funny ideas. I wanted to do something funny because I feel like that's what I do, But I usually script out my comedy and act it out. I do 5-10 takes of something. But just to reiterate, please hire me. Hire me. I want to make a documentary. Look, here, let me be honest with you. I'm either going to make a documentary. If you guys fund me again, and I hope you loved your names in the credits, or maybe you haven't funded me yet. I'm being threatened with jail. Now here's the deal. If I get the money, so this is back to him, because that's important. What the guy has done is he has taken my inability to pay and turned it into an unwillingness to pay. And remember, in Britain, you're not allowed to protest about anything. I can't say, for example, hey, you lowlifes, 2 days into lockdown, you massacred a garden of weeping willow trees next to a care home to build 3 sterile white cubes for people to own as second homes. Does that sound like the bubonic plague behavior to you? I can't, I'm not allowed to do that because they could throw you in jail under the refusal. But I have shown the guy the bank statements. I want a 13A discretionary relief fund. And he says, no, I'm the welfare officer. No. So you might ask yourself hypothetically, did anybody have a council in Britain that said, you know what, it doesn't matter what central government's doing. We're thinking for ourselves down here at the council level, and we're going to say no. No, we're not going to do what Boris Johnson wants us to do, or Keir Starmer now with digital ID. We're not going to do that. Now, if your council can't think for itself, why have a council? Well, the only reason you have a council is to collect the council tax, so they can. And I don't really know what a smart city is or a charter city, but what little I have heard of it sounds like that's exactly what this is going to be. It's owned by one man. This town is owned by one man, and his name is Sir Roger DeHaan. Sir Roger DeHaan, yes, DeHaan. And if you saw the 5-minute documentary we made, Alicia and I, my girlfriend, called London Can Boast All at Once, because that's what this is. It's an inferiority complex. And every little area that had an inferiority complex, and it probably that's what the COVID story might have done for a lot of small towns, right? It's like, oh my God, we're doing the same thing they're doing in Paris, France. I feel so connected right now to the people in Croatia. My Lord, I didn't know they was getting vaccines in Albania too. My Lord, I feel like a cosmopolitan motherfucker. There's a little bit of that, right? But then now, what are you gonna do afterwards? Well, it'd be nice to have some digital hubs and some AI centers and oh, we don't care what your politics are. You can be a racist, you can be a climate person. It doesn't matter. Just pay us the money and we'll make it look. And another thing the documentary is going to focus on specifically is bad art. Because Folkestone is billing itself. If you take the train into Folkestone, one of the first things you see is a mural that says Folkestone is an art school. Right, so that's the ethics. It wants to be the new Brighton. It's inferiority complex on top of inferiority complex, right? You know, the man beats the wife beats the kid beats the dog beats the cat chases the mouse, and on down into the subatomic level. Hello. Oh, that's right, I'm doing a job interview. I want you guys to hire me. Please hire me. I want to make this documentary. So, you know, I've got ideas. I've got about 15 minutes worth of comedy ideas for Silvatico 6 already, in a few recordings, made some test recordings. So I could go that direction, but then this documentary idea keeps calling me, and in order to do that, I'm gonna have to buy some time, especially with him threatening jail, you know. And I don't know how long a sentence would be or whatever. But that's the welfare officer, you know. No, I know you're poor, but you're going to go to jail. Only if you rephrase this motherfucker as an unwillingness, whereas the bank statement says something different, doesn't it? What assholes. But the bad art, right? So Folkestone is an art school, a little mural. It's an art. What's quirky? It's fun. What is creative? Creative for me is going down the street and seeing a bespoke cheese shop. You know, I don't feel like I'm really understanding Andy Warhol unless I spend 25 pounds on a cookie. That's when I know I'm really doing art. And I've been looking into this art shit here, especially. Well, I'll tell you what happened was we reached out to the Quarter House, which is a performing arts venue here, and there was some interest at first, until they found out who I was, and then they disappeared. You know, oh yeah, you know, he's worked. You know, so I give him. Can you imagine getting an email that says this guy's worked with Robin Williams? He's been praised by Stuart Lee, Harry Hill. Who's the other guy? Roy Bremner. He's worked with Matt Lucas. You know, did a pilot with Matt Lucas. So all these credentials. New York Times, Guardian. Read about this guy, and of course they're interested. Wow. Tell me more. What's it? His name? Will Franken. And I think what they do is they go home and they, you know, okay, Will Franken sounds all right. SpaghettiOs. Like they don't know what to make of it. Is he right wing? Is he left wing? Was he really a transvestite, or is he not a transvestite? What was it? You know, and oh my God, he didn't believe in COVID. You know, I mean, you know, and he doesn't do what we do, which is, you know, express concern about AI. You know, that, you know, as long as it's used properly, it's okay, and then maybe not. You know, this guy just doesn't like it. Full stop. I mean, this is a Unabomber waiting to happen. No, we're going to go with Sarah Pascoe from the Great British Spelling Bee and the Cookery Show, and the guy who runs the show where you have to get the chips in the pot to win the cake. That one, he's funny. Well, he'll do. You know, and. At first, I remember my girlfriend. She's not used to this world. I said, no, trust me. That's what they do. It's they ignore you. The internet's made it easy to ignore you now. So what they've done is they've looked me up and said no. But they don't have the guts to fight about it. So they'll hide behind their, you know, don't bully, don't harass. What's the first thing you do when you call the council? You're like, please be aware that no abuse of any kind or dirty words or talks of PPs and wee-wees will be tolerated. It will be considered a crime under Section 4445 of the UK Penal Code. And it's just to protect everybody in the world, but mostly them. It's to protect them. You know why it's there to protect them? This anti-bullying law and this mental health preparation love law and this don't use any bad words to authorities is to help them because they fucking well deserve it, these fucking arseholes. That's why it's in place, and not to protect us, you know. In fact, it would be very mentally healthy for that to be, you know, not a prerequisite to watch your mouth, you know, when you, hey, motherfucker, I am poor, god damn it. And if you ask a poor person, what would you like to spend your money on? Food and your rent? Or making sure you have enough electric car plug-in ports for other people? Or, you know, if there's a creative quarter in town, would you like to pay your taxes because, you know, it gives you the theater that you're allowed to get some work in because you happen to live in the fucking town? Or would I like to pay to import BBC talent down here to Folkestone because nobody in Folkestone, according to the goddamn council, can fucking paint or do sculpture or write? They have to import their art. Because they're fucking Philistines. That's why. They're fucking Philistines. So my girlfriend she says, these assholes at the courthouse didn't get back to you. And I said, no, it's kind of pointless even chasing these pricks up. And then we're putting together this, you know, we're thinking about what this council has done. And I thought, holy shit, that actually works out in our favor. Because here they've got a guy of bona fide credentials on their fucking doorstep. They can't get a foot in anywhere, you know, in terms of venues in this fucking town. And they're importing their art, right? So they've got a triennial coming up. I didn't even know what a triennial was until I talked to my neighbor about this. And they're using, you know, art installations, right? Like, you know, picture like a big steel thing with a copper silhouette and somebody talking about modalities of togetherness, you know, intersecting worlds, you know. So anybody, you know, and see, because first off, there is such a thing as bad art. And the only people who say there isn't such a thing as bad art are bad artists. No, art is exploring different modalities, and it's, you know, if it's subjective, it's your personalization of the art, and that art makes it real, and that reality becomes its own subjective simulation of itself. It's a modality thing that all are free to. I mean, everybody's doing art in some way. Oh, really? You mean like I'm doing art? Exactly. You're doing art right now. All right, so can I have 20,000 pounds from the council to fucking do my art? Oh, right. Okay, so it's not that kind of a modality. That's different, what you're talking about there. Oh, right, so you get the 20,000 pounds, but I don't. But it's all equal. And so I've been looking into like art, you know, art grants. Like, so they have this triennial coming here with these artists and their installations, and there's 30 artists, and not a single one comes from Folkestone. Not a single one. They come from Lithuania and Brazil, and they talk about intersecting worlds, and it's the kind of art you would get in a contemporary fascist digital state. That's exactly what you'd get. You know, Adolf Hitler hated abstract expressionism. He got rid of that in Nazi Germany because it didn't jibe with the whole Nazi order vibe. But what you get in the emoji age is you get the kind of art that you could actually find on a Poundland t-shirt. The same quality, the same level of technique and theme that you would get from a Poundland shirt about glitter and be magic, you know. So there'll be a quirky little sign. There's one down of a one-way sign that has the word moon written on it, pointing up. You know, that's the kind of shit you get. And you look at that stuff, you would never believe. You would never believe that they have plans to introduce digital ID in pubs by the end of this year. You would never believe the police are using remote-controlled drones and saying stuff in Brighton, by the way. Sam, I just want you to know if you're watching, I did look up the Brighton police drone thing. In Brighton, one of the police officers said, we want everybody to have fun, but at the end of the night, we do want everybody home and tucked in bed safely. That's the best place to be, home and tucked in safely. You know? No, you have a duty to stay out as late as you want, you know, because it's Friday and you're a human being, you know. And did I mention Diane Keaton years ago? And I was going to follow that up with something. Oh, I know I did. I finished, yeah, the child molester joke, right? So yeah, we're living in a world, but what can we do about it? You know, I can't get to Trump. I can't get to Starmer, but there's these things called local sons of bitches, And I don't know what the equivalent is in America. I'm imagining a local mayor, something like that, because, most of the world is not stupid enough to have a council. Is not credulous enough to have a council. We're just doing it to help grandma. It helped get rid of the potholes. That's a big one, the potholes. What about, well, people, not everybody drives, right? We're just doing it. We're basically nice. It's the poll tax, but they rebranded it as the council tax. So, and I know this because there's two ways to be poor. You can be poor and, just get fat and watch shitty TV and play online poker, or you can be poor and find out, how the hell did I get poor in 2025? What the fuck happened? Oh, AI's coming. Somebody said I said the other day to somebody, I said, AI just, we all know this. I said, AI is stealing all these jobs. And they got, no, it's not. I said, have you ever had a job? Or have you been to a grocery store recently? When's the last time you went to a grocery store? Do you see more machines or more people? I see more machines. What the hell? How could you say that? Or do you think that McDonald's and people who type, get the occasional typing, do you think that those aren't real jobs and people just do it for fun? A little quirky thing, I'm going to do some typing. It relaxes my fingers. That people work it. I lost 2 fucking typing jobs to this fucking shit because some incel couldn't get laid, decided that, women were 8-bit digital Mario Brothers things anyway, and off he made to earn whatever, thousands, millions, billions, take your pick. It's all the same when you got nothing. Sorry, I want to get hired. That's why I put on the tie. And I wasn't going to go this long either. But I'm having fun. That's the important thing, is that everybody has fun. So I'm going to do, I'm going to really go after the bad art. And I feel like I was, really primed to make this documentary, to attempt to make this documentary. I can't do it unless I have your help, folks. I mean, that's just it. And I thought, Jesus Christ, I asked you last August because it was like, I haven't talked to you in a while, but God damn it, folks, does anybody remember me? I mean, there's posters. Like, we got one here, like Best Comedian SF Weekly, Fringe Debut, 2014 Barry Award. I was like, I did have a purpose in the world, and I want to make these albums, I want to perform live again, but I'm trying to communicate how I can't tour, so I'm trying to go in this town that has a creative quarter. I can't get any response, man. Sorry, but I was running a quiz night for a while. That venue went tits up, man. This is nothing. I mean, it's like when bad artists get a hold of something, man. You're not ever going to get. I mean, they're worse than politicians on down the line. When you get bad artists in there, career artists, the careerist artist, you're really going to strangle everything in the cradle, right? Now, for example, there was a volunteer position. They were looking for volunteers at a local radio station, Folkestone Radio. So I went down there. I said, okay, it's free, but you never know. I may do a funny show on the radio. Say, hey, kid, how'd you like to work for me at Rich Person Enterprises? You never know. Have fun, introduce some tracks, And I went down there for the interview. And I was told that I was going to be invited to join a WhatsApp group, And this is not the first time I've received an invitation to join a WhatsApp group. And I realized the WhatsApp group, so I joined this WhatsApp group, and immediately there's 25, 30 messages of, Tom got new glasses. Well done, Tom. Picture of a pizza. And everybody goes, oh, hello, Tom. Lisa and I getting married on Thursday. Oh, well done with you. I hope you managed to spend the last one. Did anybody see that Netflix show last night? Aha. Is this what we've done now? We're going to compress the whole thing there. And that's, I get it. And the thing is, that makes us all equal. We're all equal. There might be a little janitor there and the owner of the station. We're all equal. But when it comes down to, could I come over to your house and eat some food? No, but I'll talk to you on WhatsApp. So that doesn't seem like it's going to happen. And if I change my personality, I might be all right. If I could have a lobotomy somehow. But, I read there was a guide, a handbook that came, for all volunteers. Now, this is volunteers, by the way, people who don't get paid. So for all volunteers, one of the rules was always be positive about the town. Very difficult for me right now, as an artist, to be positive about this town. So all I could really do was just go on and have a Howard Beale moment, something. Yeah, that's it, and trying. I've done some murder mysteries. Where people pay. You get 60 pounds and you show up and you were the one that slept with my daughter, and you get a free meal and. Playing keyboards in the cover band and all that, 2 gigs a month, maybe something like that. So it's not that that's not that I'm looking to. I want people to know that I never set out to create conflict, but I do. You were hanging around the establishment people for a long time. You go, oh come on, you guys are so full of shit. Come on, let's just say, you love the Gaza stuff, and because it's exotic and it's over there, but you never would there's so much bullshit. And you know what? For all of your liberal credentials, why did you do that advert for a fucking bank? Oh, I get it, because they played a cute ukulele in the background, and it doesn't really look like an ordinary bank video. It's not a Rockefeller bank. It's a bank where you sprout out of the grass with a mushroom hat, and somebody's playing a ukulele in the background, and the backgrounds just keep shifting. So there's that, and then I had to open my mouth about that, and then it was the other side comes along and says, "Hey, don't, not us. No, we're the free speech night. That'll be a lot of egg on our face if you put us to the test, old boy. No, don't. Oh, darn it, he's gone and done it there. Rat-a-tat-a-tooey here, bugger all. Well, no, he was trying to censor us." Well, yeah, he's trying to criticise us and say we're not the bee's knees. Yeah, there's duct tape on my mouth. You can't see it, but it's theoretically there, isn't it? Bloody old bastard. But what does he get the old chops to do? Bastard that, bastard. Jesus Christ, how long am I going to go? I guess I'm kind of having fun. Am I having fun? I'm having fun. But again, just to reiterate, I am marketing also. That's why I put on the tie. I'm marketing like an idiot. I know what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to buy comments, and you're supposed to go, if you start off with, if you pay us £5, we'll start you off with 50,000 views. And from there, it's much easier to get to 1 million. Now, if you're going to try the old-fashioned way of, hey, I got something really cool to show you guys. But it hit me right before pressing record. I said, that's what it is. That's why I didn't realize it. It's what you do as a kid. And maybe a lot of these people that are doing like TikTok now, they never wanted to be performers. They came into the world. They were their normal, boring selves. They were going to get a job doing whatever you did in the boring world. To get a job in a bank, maybe. Get a job in a bank and whatever fate had destined for them. And then, but they weren't probably looking in their mirror saying, "Hello, this is my dad." When he suddenly realizes he's got a lower lip. Oh, daughter. Lower lip. And this is my mother when she hears the word hat. Oh, I heard hat. And this is my cousin. And this is me. And that's a snail. And this is a dog. And this is the... it makes you nervous when you realize it's... God, that's what they want. There's a world where they need another... there's been a lot of fanfare for Mark Maron. Goodbye, Mark Maron. Take a bow. No, what did he invent? He invented the idea of just, a divorced guy sitting around with another guy chatting about things over a microphone in a garage. That was his sole contribution to the world today. Although I think Joe Rogan thinks doesn't he think it's his birthright? That's funny. Girlfriend and I watched about 5 minutes of Joe Rogan the other night, and I was just laughing at the simian features of it. He's really concentrating about, I've got to be a little bit bro, but a little bit smart. How do I equate the two? So I got to remember, be smart, but not fag smart. Be smart, but bro smart. And it's the one where Graham Linehan's spinning on his stool and going, I don't know. And then they start talking about, they've been talking about trannies for about, all this time. And then all of a sudden he switches to Israel. And I think, I want to get this right. I think, was one of them, like, I forget who, because it's all the same shit. I think it was Graham Linehan. I don't know. I'm not going to. One of them liked Gaza and one of them liked Israel. And then it was like, oh no, the bros are going to fight now. They've been agreeing on the whole tranny thing now. No, the fireworks are going to come down now. And they didn't. They just said it was real nice and sweet. It was like, well, whatever. Because I'm a one issue man myself, So back to the trannies there and what they're doing there with their whole skirts and nylons and everything. Well, getting back to that now. So that's the important thing there for me and what I understand and how I know to communicate with the world. The whole tranny thing. I'm gonna get a lot of hate for this because I know he's got some loyal people. I don't think even Stuart Lee named him. I was like, what's the deal? His name is Graham Linehan. And then what's weird is I know his handlers. His handlers are that Comedy Unleashed lot, and they're feeding this shit into his head. Did you hear? Did you hear about the tranny? And it gets him excited. And I kind of, part of me feels bad. See, I'm a dumb hick from Missouri, right? I'm smart, but I will always have this dumb hick about me that I will trust people too easily. I will think something's going one way when it's not. I'll say the occasional stupid thing out of sheer foolhardy whatever, you know. And that's me coming from a small town in Missouri. And I've wondered recently if Linehan's thing might be the Irish that wants to be loved by the English thing. I don't know. I'm not Irish. I don't have a lick of Irish in me, but maybe that's it. Is like I had the love of this establishment side for so long, and I won the awards and all of that. But now I've got the love of the Oxford free speech people, like Andrew Doyle whispering in his ear about this and that. I don't know. I don't know what it is. But you know what? It's none of my concern. It's none of my concern. And this hit me the other day too. This the double-edged sword of this internet thing they're talking about nowadays. It's shown. I mean, the whole messaging behind the internet is, you don't need any experts. You do you. It's not quite that now with AI. It's you do you with the help of AI. But for so long, it's been this, you do you. Cut out the middleman and start your own business with Business Smart. And you're just smart and you just do it yourself. Get out there and just be you. You don't need the experts. Just call yourself and give yourself permission to do it and work from home. Work from home in your little pajamas. Or whatever else, or your, G-string. Or work from home, whatever you want to. Work from home in a large condom. Work from home. But the experts didn't go, the political expert class didn't go away. They're still here. And there's big ones and there's local ones. Local ones like the ones I want to satirize in the documentary. I hope you guys are going to help me fund if you follow the PayPal link or the Patreon link below. See, I always got to recount myself. You have to do this stuff. I'm trying to be as human as possible. That's what I want to do. Like if you guys gave me money, everybody got a written response from me to you, thanking you personally. Now, some people might say, that's because you didn't get that many. I got 1 million last week, and most of them were fake, but I still didn't respond to any of them. No, I responded to every single one of you. I said thank you, in my own way. Sometimes I would comment because it would say on PayPal, where you're from, and I would say, give my love to so and so. Or if I had some anecdote about Portland, Oregon, somebody from Portland, Oregon, I talked about Voodoo Donuts. I remember there was a donut shop there that opened up at 10 p.m. and it opened at 10 p.m. and closed at 10 a.m. And it had like bacon on top of a donut and cereal, and it was just a stoner's munchy fantasy. I wanted to bring that all together. I've got to wrap up soon, by the way. I had no idea it was going to go this long. I said, gee, if I can just be myself. I wanted to be entertaining more than being myself. Fuck this being yourself shit. But that's the situation, So what's the most... Oh, I got turned down for a burrito job. I applied in the creative quarter. I was walking by. I saw an actual help wanted sign in a window, like the good old days, before Indeed. I saw a help wanted sign, wrote down the email address, came back home, wrote them, said, hello, I've worked at Taco Bell. I'm from America. We know a lot about burritos. I eat burritos myself. When I get the money, I splurge on burrito stuff, and I'll even cook them. One of the few meals I know how to cook. I didn't say all that, but I let them know that I was American and loved Mexican food. And I've worked at Taco Bell. How long did I work there? 2-3 years in high school. So I'm familiar with how to wrap them up and get them to taste good. That's depending on what you think about Taco Bell. And I got a rejection. So is there any? I can't get a job doing anything. I've had the occasional article published and get some work, 40, 50 pounds every now and then from the cover band. And I stopped doing the murder mysteries because the lady that ran them is such a nasty piece of work. And if you don't have a car, they pick you up, and one of the perks is they drive you. And she was just going on. She was going on and on. But actually, I based one of my jokes around her. She was going on about migrants with this other guy in the cast at one point. And I said later, I said, "What's your favorite movie?" And she said, "Inside Out." And I didn't know what that was, but it's one of those stupid Pixar. I said, "Wow, a woman in her 40s favorite movie is this Pixar animated film. Of all the movies in the world, that's your favorite movie, and you're worried about migrants coming here to destroy your culture? What are you talking about?" So if you remember the album Sabbatical 5, that joke's in there. And how's my hair look? I really want to get this job. See, jacket, shirt, tie, and it's kind of warm in here too. Did the clocks go back? Anyway, what was I talking about? I wanted to, I don't know, maybe I have, without even realizing it, sewed up all the strands. The main thing was, please hire me to make a documentary for all of you. And actually, if you want to be in the documentary somehow, have you had a bad experience at the council level? I want to make this applicable to everybody in the world, even my own dearly beloved homeland. I don't know what's going on over there. I mean, because I don't trust the news about anything. So it could be as bad as they're saying, or it could not be as bad as they're saying, or it could be as good as they're saying, or not as good as I don't know. I know what's here. I know what's local. I know what's bullshit. I think it's one of the things that I was talking with one of my upstairs neighbors about was that there's an encampment of homeless people very near the harbor, and that's a problem for Sir Roger DeHand and the pseudo-creatives who are populating that area. People, the digital freaks coming down there, they don't like that. That's not comfortable for them. So you've got to get rid of the homeless. You've got to get rid of the yurts and the tents and all that. So how are you going to do that? Well, one of the best ways to do it is you put a big art installation there about togetherness and healing and crossing different worlds and communications through cultures. And because art equals diversity, and diverse people don't hate the homeless, And of course, we don't like poverty. Of course, just like the guy on the phone the other day said, "Wait, you would be throwing me in jail because I'm poor." No. Yes, you would, because are you looking at the bank statements with me? So therefore, I have no money, right? It's an inability to pay. So why in the fuck would you threaten me with jail if there is no such thing as a debtor's prison? I don't know. These are stupid people that got, and that's the problem. Okay, that's what I wanted to finish. Okay, so the whole, and then I got to wrap this up. I thought I was, did I do everything I wanted to do? Radio positivity, yeah, be positive about I thought, what? And you guys play rock and roll on this station? What the fuck happened? So you mean I could literally get never mind the bollocks, here's the Sex Pistols, and I could put that on, not the turntable, but the digital, type it into Spotify or however you do it, play Anarchy in the UK, and then come back and say, and just remind you, pay your council tax. They've done some wonderful things, the council. There's a new art exhibit by local Belgium artist, Rico and Suike, called Together We Are the Poppy. We are the Poppy. Threats of jail and hire me. Yeah, that's pretty much all about anything. So the expert thing was, the internet is trying to convince you that there's no such thing as experts. It's just you being the best you can. The days of your dad having to suit up and wear a bowler hat and go to the old accountant office days are over. You can do all of that boring shit from home, even faster. But the experts never went away. They didn't go away. So therefore, in the midst of this schizoid setup, the only way that the experts can still exist is by acting more openly fascistic. That's all they can do that now because it's become cartoonish. Whereas as much of a bastard as Richard Nixon was, there was still a little bit of decorum. And of course, I'm not a crook. I did not. There was, he made some effort to cover things up a little bit, and then it got really embarrassing towards the end. And what was it? 16? Was it 16 minutes went missing? 7 minutes? I always forget the number, but 7 minutes went missing off of a tape, and you know, and gradually, and then Reagan came around in the '80s and did this, the glamorous. It's back now. The America is brand new and better, and now it's just kind of getting into the like that film Idiocracy, which is worth a good laugh with Luke Wilson in it. It's just getting to that gutter level. People are actually saying things like, "I must be right because I have more views than you." And they're actually reverting to this. It's reverting back to this childhood ethic. He's got better shoes than me, therefore I hate him. And what gets lost in the crossfire, it goes back to that joke. So I've thought about, if there's a way of including that in this documentary, which I hope you guys hire me to make, adjusting my tie again, going back to that joke of, the ethics these guys have. They're a notch below child molesters. And if that's true, and it seems like it is, I mean, some of them are. Prince Andrew, I know he's not a prince anymore, and we're supposed to go, well, that's good. That's showing him King Charlie. Say what you want about old King Charles. I mean, God, that's a king. It took his titles away. God, what's a title, by the way? Okay, that's what, yeah, well, that's nothing, isn't it? Yeah. No, so as my girlfriend pointed out a couple nights ago, she said, you not only did the taxes go to help him fuck underage girls, it also went to him covering it up as well. I hope I'm not freezing. I think I'm freezing here. So you're paying for both the act itself and his attempts to cover it up, because apparently he did, or so the story goes, he did hire a private investigator to dig up dirt on the now dead Virginia Giuffre. God rest her soul. Anyway, so yeah, the only way that the expert political class can still exist is if we admit that this is just a kind of a fascist setup, and fuck the guy who doesn't have any money, and I think that's the whole racket, is to get us to, if you live in a world where politicians have the ethics of or lower than child molesters, if you're in a certain bracket, you might be able to joke about it or wince or that's not right. And organize a protest like yesterday. Apparently it was from 1 to 3, which we found a little weird. It's like a protest. It starts at 1 and ends at 3. And will there be coffee and donuts for both sides afterwards? Maybe some fellowship? And also, apparently you could not say, in this country, you had to say no tyrants because theoretically it's treason if you say no kings in this country, whereas they said no kings in America because there are no kings in America. But they should have said no presidents, no leaders would have been nice. How about that? Would have been really nice. Get rid of. I don't want a king. I don't want a tyrant. I want a really dignified senator. Maybe a quorum of people smarter and better dressed than I. I think I would be happy with that. Those are the leaders. How about no fucking leaders? God damn it. No, anarchists. We're always childish. We're cuckoo. It's never going to happen. No, it's never going to happen, but what you want to happen is fucking childish. Let's all play in a WhatsApp group and pretend that anybody has an individual voice anymore. I might too, I feel energized. I've also quit smoking too. I was buying the 5-pound pack, so I wasn't spending, the taxed kind. I was getting, there's a local shop here that does the 5-pound ones, so. But I've knocked those on the head too, and it's now chewing gum and pretzel sticks, so I'm probably a little bit more energy than usual in das concentration camp. So I know I had one more thought. I'm always searching for one more thought, but it probably is time to shut up because we're approaching the hour mark. It was about the expert class has to act more fascistic, and we have to accept it. Oh yeah, so yeah, if you live in that world, politicians with the ethics of or lower than child molesters. If you're of a certain bracket, you can navigate your way through it. You can be disgusted about it. But if you're on the lowest strata of society, it could be death. It could be a death sentence to have that kind of people in charge of your destiny. It could be a death sentence. And what would happen if that was the case, and all of those people at the bottom rung of society are put in jail, die, can't get work, starve? What will happen is the people that moved into those new builds, in the midst of all of this talk of a new bubonic plague, many of for whom own these 700,000 pound properties as a second home under the bullshit of there being a housing crisis. And again, the only kind of housing crisis is homelessness. That's the only housing crisis there is. But that would mean that those people who didn't think it was strange that in the midst of a bubonic plague, they were building new builds for people to move into, robbing the view of a care home, of all places, it would mean that people like that, they would become the lowest rung of society. And you know what? That doesn't look as bad. So if you can, if Folkestone can get more artists, pseudo artists, to come in and drive the homeless into the sea, they'll have that aesthetic they want. And what they want is they want me to fund my own extinction. And I don't, and maybe the term irony is appropriate here too. The irony is I don't have the money to pay for something that I wouldn't want to pay for, right? So before you can become unwilling, there's an unwillingness, yes, but before that, there's an inability. And this bastard saying that my inability is an unwillingness just so he can throw the fucking jail threat at me is beyond the pale. So what's an artist to do but try to find another outlet to create? Because when I create, you know what happens? I get sane. It makes me sane for a little bit, at least. It keeps me sane. So again, if you'd like to contribute, I know many of you have already contributed. If you could contribute again somehow, tell people that don't know about me. I'm going to try to look into how to do a GoFundMe or whatever the popular one is nowadays. Even just as a calling card, like my name is so and so. I was considered a really talented comedian at one point. I had the praise of the world and all that. Help me do this, because it'll be funny, informative. It'll be something that rejects the right-wing bullshit and the left-wing bullshit and gets to the real fucking truth. This is a vertical fight. We got to be looking upwards, and we can't be looking to the stars. We got to look right, like there. I mean, the council here is just right down there. And if we could just get a real community again, rather than this, okay, did you join the WhatsApp group? Join the WhatsApp group, and we're going to talk. We're going to have a Judean People's Front meeting. So if you want to help me get this done, there'll be the PayPal link, and obviously, you'll be credited as always. And I've got tons of archival material here that I know some people might really love to hear. Hell, we might even think of ways to make a T-shirt or something just to show I'm saying my girlfriend too, because obviously, we're both trying to find work right now. So, which is not an she's a writer. I'm a whatever I do. And so if we do help us, we are refugees here. So yeah, there'll be the links included, and thank you as always. And I hope you've been somewhat entertained, and perhaps, who knows, even a little bit edified. God bless you all, and hell, here goes nothing. Thank you. Bye. Get the tie on. So good night.